signing. I know in India it's a little bit 4.5 hours later. And you see, I start my world online community tour with Gurgaon in India today. And I will be in Canada and Europe. Virtual means that you have to go and you have not to travel all the times. It's not possible. I have done this last year around the globe in several situations, but only for SharePoint Saturday, it's not so easy to say. So we start with OneDrive Group Policies, and that means not only for the enterprise. You can have it although in small things, but I have to do a little bit here and tell the slides where I am and what I am doing and going into another color. I'm an absolutely fan of dark mode, so I have to go and will step one further. Means yes, we go to dark mode, and now we have dark mode. So my name is Hans Brender. I'm an MVP since 8 years. I'm working as a cloud productivity evangelist, and you see all my data on social media, email address, LinkedIn, Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, so many things that are there, and it's very interesting. I hope I will also have some new followers on Twitter, on Facebook, Instagram, whatever you want to decide it's for your best. So the thing is, I do with OneDrive a lot, and Microsoft called me 6 years ago and say, hey, this is Hans. Hans is coming from Germany, and that was an introducement to Microsoft, a new Microsoft manager. He's now working for Teams, but he says, okay. And they also said, okay, we call him Mr. OneDrive. The difference is that Microsoft has so many people also in the OneDrive group. They only do a little bit small. They know a lot, but not all things together. And therefore, I do all the things around the globe, bringing all together. If I do, and I'm working as for companies, yes, it costs a lot of money because I need 2 days, 420 slides. And now you see we're on slide 2, but we will have a little bit more, and you will see that we have a little bit smaller agenda with 50 slides, and about for you, I have made in the shadow 60 slides more. So be prepared at the end to take your camera and say, okay, now I want to have it with me, the slides, you have it all together. We talk a little bit about OneDrive updates, what's going on, and a little bit then about group policies. And then we do also have a small thing that means a demo. I have prepared that. The first thing I have done was last year during Ignite. You will meet next week. We have the Ignite. So therefore, that was Ignite in one of the cinemas in the big hall with so many people. They have stand outside and calling out in 20 minutes. Now I have a little bit more with group policies and top 10 group policies. So that's my thing, but you can see what's happened for your company and what you will hear. Some summaries, and then we are gone. So that's the thing. And this stuff about these icons you have. Now it's a little bit easier. In the past, there was only blue and white. And yes, the white was a next generation sync client OneDrive for personal. We don't talk about personal today, but you see what is there. The Groove client, we do not talk about the Groove client. We only talk about next generation sync client with OneDrive. So that thing, the possible thing is you can match out the personal drive because you as an administrator have no control about that. And that's the thing. You have no control, and therefore you should say, okay, I want to do it. I do not want to do that the people bring data out of all this environment in her personal OneDrive. So therefore, you have to know that. Therefore, you see on the right side, user adoption, some slides. It's very important for the people, the users. They have no idea. And you will see later on at the last slides, I made a new program. I write a bot. And it's in the last thing. We will have it, I think, in the 2 or 4 weeks. We want to have it during Ignite, but it was not possible. It's a little bit complicated. This bot runs in Teams and knows all about OneDrive. I had to digitize my knowledge, but it's a different thing. Here, I want to talk to the administrators and the group policies. Yes, there are group policies in there, but normally It's for the end users because they want to have an ask an answer and you will get it. So we have to know about a little bit about synchronization with the next generation sync client. And most people and most things in my area of mid-sized companies, of enterprise companies, you see a lot of things. You have to know the limits at SharePoint Online and OneDrive for Business. You have to know that's okay, you have a library and there is a possibility about 30 million documents. But unfortunately, you cannot sync these data. So there's a limit. And during migration, I have worked for a migration company in the US. During migration, you have to say, okay, how many gigabytes you have to transmit? And yes, that's interesting during the migration process, but it's not interesting if you have a possible synchronization with all this stuff because the limit is 300,000 files. You have to know that. 300,000 files per instance means in your OneDrive for Business, the blue icon you have, all what's in there means 300,000 files. And that's different. Yes, it's your OneDrive for Business. That's all SharePoint libraries you sync and a little bit more we want to talk. So you still have to look all the possibilities of the limits of SharePoint. Therefore, the link on the right side, you see that, then you can sync and can see what's happened. So now I'm writing also a series about 10 things, and I will also have the slides here because in Microsoft have a lot of things done with all these synchronization, and you have to know, hey, what's in there? And we have here Exchange, we have SharePoint Online. I only speak about OneDrive for Business today, about Office 365 or Microsoft 365, and not for the on-premise features. And therefore, you have to look. There's Exchange Online. What does it mean? Yes, you also have a little bit. We have on the client side a OneDrive Windows 10 machine. We have several applications there, and we have to look what's happened there. Although you have the possibilities to sync data because you have to access data with the web browser. That's possible. The web browser or Teams or iOS and Android. And that means it's a little bit complicated. What can we control and what do we not have control? In Outlook with Exchange, no, there is no access, but you can have. Sometimes you have to share a document out of a document library, if it's possible to outside, and also your OneDrive for Business. You know, if you write a mail and want to attach a document, then the Outlook says, hey, listen, you should not do that. You should not attach the document. Otherwise, you have more than one document, and it's a little bit more work to put all things together. But therefore, you should only sync with the people, and that means you only sync or send the people outside or inside your organization a link coming out of OneDrive Personal. We don't talk about that, but coming of OneDrive for Business, or my OneDrive for Business, or coming from different document library, I have access for that. That's in Outlook, the thing. And the same issue we have in Outlook on the web. So that's a new thing. We called it in the past Outlook Web Access. Yes, that's the same thing in new things, but it's the same. And you can have all things what I've talked about, Outlook on premise or Outlook as native application here in the web browser. And sometimes you have to know a little bit more because all things come in Microsoft with the browser. And then they're applicated to Word, Excel, or something else inside the system. So therefore, you have to know about that. Means, yes, that's the thing we have. In Windows 10, we can synchronize all these data from different document libraries. You have to decide which one we want to have. And so listen, all things here you can synchronize to your Windows 10. Means you have offline access. You can get it everywhere, not with a quick internet. You see, the people can also synchronize the data. And now it's a little bit complicated. If you see that, yes, on the right side, that's the tenant you are working with. But maybe you are a consultant or in the company and you have another partner. Yeah, he has also Office 365. And then you have the same possibility. You can have a second blue icon with 300,000 possible files to sync again to Windows 10. That's the thing we have to look. It looks a little bit complicated, but it must be a little bit more complicated. Listen, if you work with a partner, you should also think, hey, you are working in Office 365. We are working in Office 365. We have a connection. We build a trust. And then another thing comes up. That means SharePoint Online business to business. And yes, with these document libraries, you also have access. So it could be that people have access to other companies with a trust. They do not have to do it. That's another session for about 1 hour, or you can read all the stuff, 300 sites about the completely process about SharePoint business to business. And the thing is, you can have all these things on your machine. Means Windows 10 is most important because it's inside, it's a middle. No, the middle is still SharePoint behind the scene. But we have to look for the next one. Listen to them that we have with Word, Excel, PowerPoint, also the possibility to work with OneDrive directly, indirectly, if it goes to Windows 10, and then synchronize the data offline, online. You can have all the data and work together with other persons. That's the collaboration thing. And most people do not work with the collaboration. Sometimes they do it, but not together. And therefore, you have to know collaboration speeds up the things. And normally, Microsoft is doing a lot about the collaboration stuff. But you have to say, okay, if I do that, I have to say also that you can have a little bit complicated. It's an easy process, but this is the most important thing. In my website, the people ask, hey, I want to share with you. May I have a file sync on my machine, only a file? No or yes. Yes, if you say why, yes, because it could be if you take it, this file in a folder, share the folder them, and then sync the machine. Therefore, other people also see the file and do not have to search again in the browser. Hey, where is the file I have to connect to? They have it on the machine, they work with us. If I make a new version, you also have the possibility on your machine, and still it's also in the cloud. So working with that stuff is also possible, and you can have a little bit more. If you have iOS, yes, with OneDrive, you have all this stuff. With the iOS 14, a little bit more with widgets on iOS, all with the document libraries, all with these people, OneDrive is here also implemented. And that makes it complicated because, okay, you say, I have Android, the same. You have the possibility to work with the document libraries, the documents in there with Word, PowerPoint, Excel, whatever you want are still here and you can have it. But keep in mind, hey, there is still all the things that you see with OneDrive personal that is also there, and therefore you have to look. It's different, and sometimes people said to me, hey, can I share the documents from OneDrive for Business to my OneDrive Personal? That's not possible. Has something to do with security. And if we look in the last thing, that Teams. So people also say, hey, what's with Teams? In Teams, you have all the document library and other document library for private channel. That's a little bit complicated. And sometimes the people do not know and have to realize if you chat, there's Exchange Online. Yeah, that's a little small things going from one to other persons who are in the chat. So therefore, it's in there, and the files are in SharePoint Online. People don't know that. I have only the document library in Teams, and doesn't see that's files, yes, but it's still SharePoint. And not the joke, another customer came to me and say, okay, now we use Teams, can we shut up SharePoint Online? It's still there, it's still behind the scene, we use all these stuff. So that was a little bit about synchronization, and that means, hey, we have to look about the stuff. We have to look what's going on, and I have to control that as administrator, and you can do that. But first, you have to know, hey, this sync client on a Windows 10 machine, or if you're using Apple Macintosh, it's the same, you can have, and you have updates. Because the people have to know the updates must be there, and there will be automatically 140 megabytes for each update. It comes now 14 days. And the last one was not on the weekend. It started at Wednesday. I have to say to Microsoft, to the product group, hey, why not during the end? Because it's a little bit bad if something goes wrong. and therefore take in the middle of the week, you can react a little bit quicker for if you have any things. And if you do not have, if you have the feeling, sometimes you do not have the same client version on your machine, and on your machine you have a different one, you see, hey, that could be done because not all to have the same access to the server. Each time a machine you start 24 hours later, it looks inside and hey, it's a new version for me. And that means you must have access to one client, SFX, MS, or glive.com. And that's for 3.80 TCP/IP call. That means, hey, if it's there, he looks for that, but crazy. Sometimes I have 4 machines here on my desk. That means I have two different versions in the same environment with the same user. So keep in smile, it must be there, that it's okay, and it will realize. And also the second one I have to say or repeat a little bit is about automatic updates. And the next one is sometimes the people say to me, hey, it's so slow. Why it's so slow? And we have to sync and sync and sync. Sometimes you have to have allowed traffic to start.vns.windows.com. That's an easy part. You have to look for the Office 365 URLs on IP addresses, and that's a requirement because it's a change between push or pull. And that means it takes a little bit longer. And sometimes you have to fix the firewall with the firewall guys. Not your business, but you have to say, hey, I need this access because it's an environment. So that's about the OneDrive updates. And you know about the different versions we have. We have a production ring. We have also a deferred ring. And the deferred ring is the latest. We called it in the past enterprise. But now that they deferred ring, whatever it means, and we have also the insider versions. Now all 14 days it comes, the production rings 12 times a year, and the deferred ring 4 times a year. So you have to say, hey, I can change it with a group policy. That's an easy part. I can say all of my people, I want to have it because of environment, access to the internet, and so on. I want to do it with the deferred ring. That's okay, but take you as an administrator in the insider ring. Then you see what will happen in the next few weeks. And that's very interesting to see that. And sometimes the people has to know, hey, that's a little bit different. Where do I find all this stuff? You have to see the program installation at the beginning of Windows 10 was in C, my username, app data local Microsoft OneDrive, and there was a version, programs, DLLs, update files, all these stuff, also the logs and the settings. So therefore you have to know, and I have to know, okay, we see that we have, now the access is there. I have to see if it was frozen. So what I want to say, the program installation was in the past at this position with all the files. And then they have, you see that in this binary, you look, this machine looks to HTTPS on client SFX MS if I have a new version in there. Therefore, we have to look. And then they have a new version with, you can have it also there in a different position, but most of the people have to say, hey, it's in the user's thing. And some administrators say, okay, it should not be in the user because that's a little bit critical. They want to have it on a different thing. And that means, yes, we do that. We do that now in program files, Microsoft OneDrive. There is a new thing with the versions, and that means the versions, the logo images, the updates, and all the stuff is in the program version, and the user configuration, the logs and the setup, that's in the user file. And therefore, you have to look for that. That's for the program installation if you want to see that. And it comes up if the user have OneDrive Personal on your machine, and it comes, this OneDrive Personal comes with a vault for your personal documents. All things are moved to this program installation. So therefore, you have to know if you have no OneDrive Personal on the machine, you still are at the other thing. I go back this way. So therefore, you have to know, hey, yes, 2 possible versions, and then you see where you have to look if you look for that. So for these, in this agenda, now we have to talk about group policies. Group policies are most important because you can change a lot with the user configuration and the computer configuration. It's only 40 group policies. 40? Oh, it's 35 and 5 for the machine. But anyway, we have to look for that. And you have to see there is some small amount of user configuration group policies and sometimes a little bit more with the computer configuration. Where do I get the ADML, ADMX files to connect and have this stuff? To find that, you will not find it on the internet. You will find it on your machine. If you are an insider, I told you, you should do that. You have the newest version because the group policies comes with each version of the OneDrive sync client and installed, and therefore you find it on your machine. So there you have the ADML and ADMX files, and you have to position that. You do not have to do it with this Intune and all the other stuff, System Center, to push that out. You have to test it first if it's okay with these things. They are in 16 languages. The old Groove client comes only with one language. You have to decide English or whatever you want to establish. Therefore, you have to see if that's the right one. So 16 languages we have in the group policies. I recommend to do it in English. Why? Microsoft has completely documentation, and now it's okay, but I have found there was a lot of differences you do not find if you have it in another language, not in English, not the correct version in the documentation, docs.microsoft.com. They have a lot of work through me, but anyway, you find these although in the user adaptation data local Microsoft OneDrive version ADM, and then you find all the ADML files. And as I said before, if I have this Vault installed in OneDrive Personal, you find the version here in the program installation. That's a difference. And then you find all the stuff. Means the group policies, and you can test it. So there are something, and I cannot do it in 1 hour. Therefore, it takes 12 hours if I have to talk about all the stuff and handling. The group policies is a big stuff, but we do not have to tell, hey, what's all though? If you have to enable something, and sometimes I will show you. So sometimes it's very interesting configuring team-side libraries to sync automatically. That was a big failure of Microsoft. They have to decide to write it in a wrong way. And people ask me, hey, it's a problem because if you configure this one, you have to wait 8 hours. It could be 8 hours. Unfortunately, the configuration will work. But the people have to say, I have worried, I have done it, and I have waited 16 hours, and it's still not going because the documentation was right, but not in the correct order, left to right, and it was vice versa. Now it's okay, and I will show you what's going on. So I have made it, although with a thing that I do not want and have to talk and not to click on this stuff because we have to tell a little bit more. So I will start this one, and you see that's a machine, and now we want to start this. So we see here my OneDrive with my company, and you see here that's some internal slider libraries, yeah, of the SharePoint library. And then I have another tenant, and here is a OneDrive for Business, and that's a OneDrive for Business for another company. I have two bubbles here there because that's the same. That's OneDrive for Business, and that's the same here for the SharePoint libraries. And you see here again, and the other stuff, I have a OneDrive Personal too. So that means 3. Sometimes I have 5 to play with a little bit around. So, okay, it could be different. Normally you have 2. If you have OneDrive for Business and you have your own company, then it's okay. So we have to look in there. Okay, click on that. And you see here, if I click on that, I have several things, 3 folders, and it's okay. That was 2019. Now it's a little bit more. But anyway, that means we can do that. And here we see all the other stuff. That was my OneDrive Personal in the side, and here OneDrive for Business. And now I want to open something. I take a browser, and first we open the group policy. You have it on your machine. We want to do it with all the things. First, I have imported the group policies, the ADMX and ADML files on the correct position. I have done it before. So then you see if you have a local group policy editor and you open that, we have the little configuration that, and you find it in administrative templates, that's a computer configuration, and you find it in OneDrive. So that's the thing we have. And you see only OneDrive files on demand. That's one group policy I have to enable. Normally, Microsoft says if you configure a machine, a new one, without anything, with no templates, nothing else, and you say, okay, I want to have it, it configures with a smiley that you have OneDrive files on demand enabled. As a user, you can disable that. And I do not want that for the company because yet this takes a lot of files, and with OneDrive files on demand, it takes nothing. It takes only the name. We will see it later on. Therefore, that the user could not disable, I have to set this group policy as enabled. That means the user cannot change it. He can change it and can say, I want to that, but you have to do it manually. But anyway, all other files he want to synchronize would be with files on demand only with the cloud. So that's the first thing. We see that. And we have to look for other things. Listen for that. Looking here, looking for the user configuration. That's a smaller one. We have it also in OneDrive, and you see here's the rest. So now you see in the first one, configure team sites libraries to sync automatically. That's the thing we want to do. So we open this stuff, and you see here, you have to enable that. And that means we have to do a value name and a value. Where do it come from? That comes, and you have to be a tenant admin, then you see the stuff. Let me look what we have to do. That's a name. That's only a name what we have to write. That means that you have more than once that you want to know what the value is. We open that with a browser, going to SharePoint and listen to that. That's the homepage of this. And I want to going to the documents there. You see, that's a small thing. Nothing is interesting. Always, there are several persons in there. Several members, one owner in this paradise. Okay, close that, go to documents. And then you see what you have in there. It doesn't mean, hey, how much is in there? We want to have to sync this stuff. And you see the sync button here. The sync button means that you can see that. And we have to press the sync button. So we want to do that. And now we have a different thing. That means we have here a library. You do not want to see it if you are not an admin on SharePoint. But here you see that. If you click, nothing will happen, but it will copy the complete library into, not the library, but the key with all these things into a string, into the things. So we want to do that. Okay, clicking on that. And I open here now that to show you what's in there. We want to do that with Notepad, that you see what's in there. And I put it in, Control V, and now you see what's in the URL. That's a tenant ID. And with the tenant ID, you go to the site ID. From the site ID, we're going to the web ID. And then is the last one, we have the list ID. So we are now, that's a completely pass to this document library. So therefore, we want to have it completely and fill it out. So we close this, go away, go inside our normal group policy editor, fill it in, and press OK. And then we have to press OK again, and that's done. So that means for this guy here, it should be configured, and it takes 1.5 hours up to 8 hours. So normally it depends what's going on, and you have to know that's only for less than 1,000 machines. If you have more than 1,000 people, you could not do that. Means we want to do it only for a small amount. Let's say, okay, marketing, you will not have 1,000 people in the marketing, or other things. Let's say finance, you do not have 1,000 people in finance in there. You have to look for that. 1,000, and it takes a little bit time, and now we run. So the first thing we want to see, we open the thing again, and now you see it's synchronized. That means the end of marketing, that was the name of the library there. And you see that's the same we have in the past. So that's an organization we want to have for the people. And now it's only up to you to say, hey, what will I do? What I have to do there? And therefore, configure teams, the libraries, it's done. I have to say which one will come. And there is also something that you have to say, prevent users from syncing personal OneDrive accounts. I mentioned before, you should not able to do that because for me, it's security. Because you not have the control about that. There are other control mechanisms. And if you have it now and want to disable it later, you should also inform the people. It will not disturb anything, but it will not think anymore. Therefore, it's also a good thing what you can do. So that's a group policies for user. Now here, the computer configuration. I only take a little bit about that. Block file downloads when users are low on disk space. If you have some machines, means yes, you can have block the downloads. You can have all the warning. We will see later on the same. And that means a lot of think engines. And if you see, hey, where are these icons in the group policies? That's mine. I made the icons because it's easier to understand if you have some group policies, not only the names, you have to see here, B2B, I want to disable that. And therefore, it's easy to find all this stuff. Require users to confirm large delete operations. So people sometimes do not know. We talk about the normal users. People do not know, where do I have to go to? Don't need these files. That's only in the cloud. I see the cloud symbol, but I do not know exactly. I do not want it. Delete. 60,000 files will be deleted. It's not so good. Therefore, you can have this group policy set to true and also have a number how many files, and they have to access it again. If they delete it, they have to go inside the small icon in the notification area. It's now red, and you have to say again yes. And you can have it between 1 and 100,000. So we have to know what is right for your company. So there's a lot of things what we can do with these group policies. You can do it personally, use OneDrive files in demand. I spoke about that. Later on, we see it again and have possibilities to check this. So Windows 10 with the version 1809, Files on Demand comes with 1709. There was something we do not know exactly in 1809. The Windows people have to say, okay, we have inside storage sense group policies. So there's a lot of things there, what we can do. That's only 6, and 1 is only to step on or off. So it's easy to configure this stuff. Means we want to do that. Therefore, I call it top 10 group policies because they are in there. Means we can control it. On the left side, you see Windows Storage Sense group policies. There is also what inside from OneDrive, and the other one is inside the OneDrive and comes together on your machine. We can one up. So allow storage global means you can configure this manually, but normally it's better you configure it for the complete company. It's better. Why? Because you can control the machines. The machines are part of the Windows universe, and the machines are all the part of Microsoft 365. So you can control it, but you have to look and inform the people about that you control the stuff. That you can do it also in the settings in the Windows 10 machines, that you can configure it on or off, but you can do that and you can say, okay, I want to run it once a day, once weekly, monthly, during low free disk space. And if you search for during low free disk space, you'll find no number. Each build of Windows 10 has a new number in there that seems to be, if you can work normally what you do, and it will not speed lower because of your configuration, because all other things are going on. And you configure that also on this stuff. That means you can also control about temporary files. Means the temporary files on each user's machine, it will be deleted. How often? You can configure that. That means, yes, we want to do temporary setup files, index files, all these stuff you have on your users' machines can be deleted automatically. But you have to inform the people. Yeah. Therefore, it's a little bit. Also, the recycle bin. Sometimes the people do not know it exactly. They want to delete it, only press the delete button and done. But it's complicated because it's not deleted. It's only in the recycle bin. And now you can clear although the recycle bin during this thing. And the next one is all the download files. Okay, I have a lot of download files and it's a small area, and therefore you can clean up this too. Please inform the users. And the last one is a special thing. That means we have to do it OneDrive dehydrate. So if you have a lot of people have to say, okay, how does it work inside? We have to look for the machine inside, and that means if you have a click on a file, it will be downloaded with the content and then opened with Word, Excel, or something else. And then you delete it. You have local it here. And sometimes you forgot this, and your hard disk will be less and less we have. We have to look about what is possible there. Look about NTFS simplified. You have a file name, you have a type, that's DOXX, and so on. It's a number only. You have place in your fat allocation table about the picture. Therefore, you know, no space required. You have an attribute. That's new with 1809. And you have still at least, there is a little bit more. That's only a simplified version. You have a pointer to the first content entry. The next thing is the content ends and the content to the content to content, the pointer. That means it's local for you. You have a local version or always available. That's a different one. And if you say, I need space, I say, okay, I switch it to this icon. Means it's now only in the cloud available. That's not a delete because you see it, the file name, but you have no content there. The content speeds up your machine, speeds up your hard disk because you have more place on that. That's files on demand. And with this hydration, it looks for all of these files, local available, and fix it to cloud only. Means that is the thing you have before, and then you will have it here. It's still there. If you have to say, I need this file weekly, I need this file daily, I need this file all 14 days, then you say, okay, I will have it on my machine, always available, and that will not change to this group policy. Files on demand, we have to spoken about that. Download warning is also a thing you have to set up if you have too less space. Yes, you have to fix up a download warning. Also a download block, because after warning and the user has not done anything, then a download block will there because it can still work, but it will have new versions. KFM is all the possibility. Microsoft says, yes, all your documents have to be switched to the cloud. That means, yes, all known folders like desktop, like pictures, like documents will be copied to your OneDrive for Business. And we can also do that also automatically. That's the thing we want to have. That's about the group policies. That's my top 10. And we have to go to the summary. And I have to see, okay, 8 minutes for your questions. We have to see when a question comes up. We have to do it later on in the chat. But you have to look again, okay, read the blog post of Microsoft. Look for MS Tech Community. There are some sync podcasts. It's also available for in English. It's very interesting. I write 2 blog posts simultaneously, one in German, one in English, and you have to look for that, and I will free if you see that, and have to say abonnement. That's once in the week, sometimes 3 in the week, sometimes a little bit less, a little bit more. When Microsoft is finishing something, it will come here also. There's also a roadmap. You have to listen what Microsoft is coming up. And normally they say during Ignite, okay, they had said it 2019. Now we have to wait still on some things because they have delayed during this COVID-19 things. I have mentioned before, I have now a bot for the users. Look for that. You have to look, I think, in 3 or 4 weeks, and it's in that the Teams. If you're running Teams, you can have all of the bot available, and you see it's in 2 languages, not just right now. We want to have it in 50 languages in the future, automatically translated with AI. So the people that are 3 workers here, our Office developer, an AI MVP and me giving my best of my knowledge about OneDrive. So that thing, and sometimes Microsoft forgets several things. If a machine crashes or something is there with the next generation sync line on the machine, you have to configure it automatically. Yeah, it's not done. You have to configure it manually. Horrible. I need for one time 1 hour. So if I have so many things configured to do that and there is no possibility to save that, please make a picture of this vote or make it later on after the questions. I have a bigger one with the complete slide deck, but please vote. We have now only 168 votes, but we need more that Microsoft will configure that. They know about that, but they wanted to have the decision, oh, we have no problem, we have no time. Sometimes it's better if we have a little bit more. Please vote there. And now we are ready for the question and have to change for the questions and have to look for that. Do we have convert URL from Unicode to ANSI? It's mentioned here. Okay, sometimes I had to answer the thing. I have no idea about that. Because it's in the OneDrive to configure Teams. No, I have not done that. Now I know it. That's the thing that they say, okay, we have to look for the smalls and the Unicode things. I have not done it. I only want to have a copy and paste and it runs. Therefore, you should do it. Perfect. If there are more questions, but now the interesting slide is there. Means, okay, I will give it also to you, the slide deck available. Make a picture, it tells you directly to the PowerPoint. If you have PowerPoint on your mobile, then you have the possibility and you can download the complete slide deck, about 110 slides. Are there any questions? That was a big, quick tour about group policies.
I don't think so there are any question. That was an interesting talk, Hans. I think everybody is scanning this QR code. I have already scanned it. It is going to your MVP SharePoint site, looks like.
No. It's directly going to the slide deck.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. Okay. OneDrive. In other words.
Yeah, the other one is okay. You have to log for the name Hans Brender. You find all the information there on Twitter or whatever you want in social media. And it's very interesting to find it. Sometimes the quicker is the quickest one. If you do not always on Twitter, I repeat it automatically. I do it not with Power Automate because I do it in separate ways. Sometimes you have to look on the other part. What's better? It's not so good. And the first one I could not look into automatically means in an Excel sheet because all things are there and it will be automatic twittered again. And I use another tool and that is running always. Although if you follow me, you will get from me a tweet personally, different tweets with different context in there, but you can things automatically. Otherwise, you have no chance to do that. Well, I have to say thank you for all this stuff. And I do that here. Thank you. And that was slide 108. Okay, I planned it 60 out. You have these one with old names and group policies in there. There are, I think you have to read that if you look for the group policies. And if you have any question, feel absolutely free and ask me. I will let it decide what is going on, and then we will see together. Thank you so much, and have a nice evening.
Thank you, Hans.
Thank you, Hans. Thanks for the wonderful session.
You're welcome.